And today I have this person, really, really good man, sharing his heart, sharing his story of lifelong alcohol addiction and what is his mission today to serve men. My guest is Bradley Wendling. He is Change Through Pain men's coach. He utilized a professional coaching application that offers science-based exercises to address mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, relational, and financial health. His strength includes devotion, intuitive listening, discernment, a calm and comfortable demeanor, and clear and strong communication. He is fantastic. Honestly, guys, I was so excited to have this conversation, and he's such a good and humble man who make a difference in people's lives. And I do believe that God allowed us to go through hardships so we can be more kind, more compassionate, and more understanding for others. And that's what Bradley doing today. He served people. So please listen and share this message with someone who you think need to hear this message of overcoming, hope, service, passion, and compassion. Welcome, Bradley, to Love and Beloved podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'm so grateful that you have agreed to share your story and expertise with our audience. And I know that people will greatly benefit and will be encouraged by our discussion. And honestly, guys, it's been long in the making. We met quite a while ago, but I do believe in divine timing. And I'm so grateful that we are here together. And honestly, guys, get ready. It's going to be very, very awesome conversation. So first of all, Bradley, tell us a little bit about yourself and where your journey began.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. It has been quite a journey this year. It's hard to believe that the year is coming to a close. It's almost Christmas, and just we were just chatting earlier about all the things that have occurred this year and the things that you learned through your own journey and the healing journey and what brought you to this point and the things that you rely upon each day to keep you moving forward. And so that's really that sums up where I am now. And so if I take us back to where my journey began and why I created Change Through Pain, which I'm wearing my brand new hoodie here, which it's pretty cool. It's red, white, and blue. It matches the background. And if I take us back, it all started when I decided to get sober from alcohol. And alcohol has been something that I have battled my entire life. I started drinking when I was about 10 years old. And I took that first drink and I never looked back. And obviously I didn't know at that time growing up that I was an alcoholic and that it was affecting me in many different ways and my emotional growth, my emotional maturity growth, and all those things, relationships, and learning and discovering who I am. And so when I decided to get sober, I was in a very dark place in my life. And a lot of people would say that it was my rock bottom because financially, spiritually, relationally, I was just broken. And I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing, where I was, and I felt lost. And I decided to eliminate alcohol because that was a big distraction and it was something that I'd never gone without before. And so when I did that, I was like, whoa, what do I do now? What do I replace this with? Because I would end my day after work and I would immediately start drinking, and I would drink until I went to bed. And that's where I was at that point in my life. This was back on January 1st, 2019, when I became sober. It'd be 4 years on January 1st of 2023. So 4-year journey. And so I just had to figure out what was going on with myself, who I was, what I wanted, my core values, etc., and what I would no longer allow. in my life. And so that's where I took that journey. I actually joined a program. It was about 2 blocks away at a local church called Celebrate Recovery. And it's a wonderful national program. It's at least national here in the United States. I'm not sure if it's in other countries, but let me just describe for you. So I'm in this deep, dark place. I'm unsure. My ex fiance had just moved out. I didn't have a wonderful relationship with my sons at that moment. And I decided to just hop in the truck. I drove over there and I walk in and I was immediately greeted with the most warm, friendly, inviting welcome that you could imagine. And this guy did not know me. He didn't know my story. There was no judgment. There was nothing. And he immediately showed me around. And I walk into this room where they were having like a potluck. They would feed everybody before the activity. And I sat down in the only open chair, and immediately I was connected to the gentleman next to me. And we just started chatting and we decided to exchange numbers. And ever since then, we have stayed in touch. He was also going through a similar journey. And it was because of him, in addition to many other things, but it was because of people who just cared, right? And they knew that they had their story and they knew that I had my story and there was no judgment. And we're all just here, just trying to figure this life out, right? This game of life. And it was in that moment that I realized that I needed others and I needed to also give back to others. And that was something that I discovered because I felt like I was being a little bit selfish with my alcoholism and not doing the things that I used to do in my life. And so about 3 months later, it was July 3rd, 2019, I started Change Through Pain. And I didn't know what it was going to be. And I recorded the first podcast, and then I created the website, and I started all the social media, and I just started recording my journey, my healing journey. And if you listen to my podcast, which is 103 episodes now, all of them except 2 are solo, believe it or not. It's just me and sharing my journey. And I've had a lot of great feedback from folks who could relate, and I've made some friendships from my listeners, and they've even invited me to coffee, to have lunch, etc., because they could resonate with it because I was being so raw and honest. And as a man in my 40s, I just turned 46. As a man in my mid 40s, they were just really touched that I was willing and able to be that vulnerable. And over the next few years, as I continued the progress and the Change Through Pain journey, I noticed that my audience was growing, primarily men. It's right now, it's about 80-20, 80% men and 20% women, based off of all the analytics and social media and my website. And so I decided in December of last year, I decided to join a men's coaching program to actually become a full-time coach. So I've been going through that journey this year. And let me just take you a little dive into that. So it was based out of Australia. And Australia is like right now, it's like the next day, right? And so I was on their time. And so this entire year, I've been waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to attend calls to go through the program. And I've done that consistently. And now I'm just like a total like night owl. I'm up all the time and it's pretty crazy. But the point is that I was so devoted to my mission of deciding to coach men and empower men to have confidence and be disciplined and live on purpose with passion. That's my mission statement. And so I decided I was going to do anything in my power to give other men the opportunity to lead by example. I have 2 sons. One is 17 and the other is 20. And I have actually been taking them through the program. And after that entire experience this past year, I decided to create a specific program for men who could hop on their phone, download this smartphone app, and actually go through 28 exercises that would get them to where I am today. And the reason that it's so powerful is that I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to ask. There wasn't much out there. There's more now, but I have not found anything quite like what I have put together in this app. And so I'm really excited about it. It launched recently, and I right now actually have 50 openings that I will allow any man to access it for free, no strings attached, and I'm just simply asking for a donation of any amount. And so, how could you pass that up, right? I've got about 14 men in it right now, including my sons that are going through it, and it touches upon so many different things. When I go through it on my own, I'm reminded of my journey and why these exercises and activities were so powerful. And there's a lot of motivation, inspiration throughout. And then I'm accessible for one-on-one coaching if you want to go that route, and that would be a cost associated. But if you wanted to do that, then I'm more than welcome, more than happy to dive in and take you on that journey to help you dive deep, to help you discover who you are, your core values, your mission statement, create a self-image, and then actually create discipline to apply these tools to your life to create the life that you desire and become the best version of yourself. So that's me. That's the journey. That's where I got. There's a lot of in-betweens there, but I think that gives you a good perspective of where I've come.
That's amazing. First of all, congratulations. Because no matter what we're going through, we always have a choice to become a victim or victor. And now I heard that phrase, your mess becoming your message, and you are living it. And honestly, I'm 100% understand you. I'm trying to unpack everything that you said, and I literally want to dive deep one by one, because I want to talk about this app and your journey, but I want to go back a little bit and share what actually happened in my mind while you were talking about your childhood. And I became an alcoholic in 13. So I totally can relate when it was just a coping mechanism for me. But I usually share my story, but I don't know how often I was mentioned the fact that my dad was alcoholic, and my environment was like this. So today I actually want to concentrate on men, because you're talking about empowering men. And there, of course, we'll talk how other people can support men. But the fact that I couldn't understand why he's doing it. What kind of man are you to be like this? And my perspective as from outside, and knowing how hard it is for people around to live with someone who is addicted. And then when I became a parent and I look back, and I actually now finally understand, nobody starts drinking just because they want to be drunk. There's something underlying trauma, and it's a coping mechanism. It's just one that available and sometimes socially acceptable, so it's easily available. So now I understand what's going on with my father, what was going on with me as well. But that's what my heart breaks, because he did not have a community. He did not have that saving grace of some community who would look at him as a human being, because I had no respect for him. So how other people could respect him? He lost his job, he lost his family, he lost his dignity. So for you to say, I went this place and somebody greeted me like a normal human being and care for me and love on me, we have this stigma. You actually talk about this in a form that that masculinity, and have to have, men have to have everything put together and all this stuff. Because my father did suffer with mental health. challenges, but it was so camouflaged by the booze that nobody ever asked him, are you okay? What's going on? Do you need help? They just treat him as an alcoholic. So can you talk
Yeah.
how it feel? And then you found the accountability partner who without judgment actually accepted you. Like, how did it feel in that moment? Is it first time you experienced this, I don't know, acceptance?
Yeah. Yeah, I was about 10 years old when I started. And when I say I started, like it became a regular activity on the weekends primarily. And we would sneak out of the house, and there was a stash in someone's house, and we would drink, and it just became this escape. And I know for me, it was an escape. Now that I understand that, now that I've gone through a lot of childhood trauma healing, and I've been through therapy, I went through the Celebrate Recovery program, I've been through Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been through the 12 steps. And then through all that, I have then committed myself to daily self discovery and self healing activities through a number of different avenues. But there was a lot of shame. Um, there was a lot of untapped emotion that I didn't understand where it was coming from. And it was such an emotional time for me. And it still has its moments to where it is, because I'm still going through the process after. It's like I had so much toxicity, so much toxic energy stored up in my body, and I've been releasing it. And deciding to quit alcohol was the first step to be able to do that. And there was this moment to where I've been sober for about a year, and I went on a vacation with my family, and my sons were with me, and I couldn't keep it together. I was like just losing it, and I didn't understand why. Everything was triggering me, right? And I realized that I felt I was carrying a burden, a heavy burden of shame, because the way that I treated my sons. And I wasn't physically abusive or anything like that. I didn't call them names. I didn't do any of those things. But myself as a man, as the dad, I wasn't leading in a great example, because I was upset and I was angry, and I didn't understand why. And so I would project that outwards onto the family. And I was, I went, I had my sons there, and we got back to the house. We were staying at Airbnb, and I just felt like I needed to talk to each one of them individually. And so I talked to my son, my oldest son first, and I just about broke down, and for a father, for a 40 something year old man who has been conditioned to stuff his emotions his entire life and not show, any weakness, right? Because when men are showing, emotions, typically other than anger, is considered weakness at some level in our society here in the Western culture. And but it was just he and I was able to just be raw and honest. And I asked him a little bit about the situation, and he said, "Hey, Dad, if I can be honest with you, you know, my brother and we've been scared of you for a while now, because we didn't know how you were going to react and respond." And that just like broke my heart. And so then the next I chatted with my younger son, and that was when I really lost it. And I just, for the first time ever, I really just held him and cried. And it was just like, it was so difficult. I'm trying to just,
Yeah,
I'm trying
I'm
to
trying
focus,
to
right?
hold that. That's
I'm
amazing.
trying to stay present so I don't lose it. But it was, it was so necessary. And for them to see their father to be real and honest and vulnerable and be able to apologize and be sincere and devote himself to improving himself and being a better father and being a better, you know, son and brother and uncle and cousin and coworker and boss and everything that you could imagine. It's been really great for them to see that journey, and they've been excited about the things that I've been doing. They're really excited to see the impact, positive impact that their dad is making for so many in many different ways. And it just, I knew I have to do this. I just knew I had to do whatever I could. And this has been tough. This has been really tough because I basically gave up uh, a career that I've built for 17, 18 years. And I've owned a couple businesses as well. And it's been tough. I've had to just start completely over in every single way you could possibly imagine. And, you know, luckily, family. I've got family that cares about me and loves me and is supporting me to help me continue moving forward because they believe in me and they believe in the message. And I want to break generational cycles. And I want my sons to be different. And I told them, whatever you do, just stay away from any foreign substance that could alter your mind. Just, I don't, there's pros and cons for different things. We're not going to get that discussion, but I just said, just stay away from it and just stay clear headed because that's been one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And so I want to live by example for others.
Absolutely. Wow, that's an amazing. Yeah, I did reconcile with my father as well, and it was very beautiful, that vulnerability and reconciled relationship, because drugs and booze, it's not defined us, and that,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that your family stood by you. But honestly, guys, if you don't have a support of your family, there's people who gonna love on you. I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, you are not alone, because I reconciled with my father when I was already clean, married with my own family. So I went through that walk without my family, but there's people, there
Mm.
was church community, any programs that you enter, there's gonna be people who wake you up and gonna love on you. Honestly, like
Yes.
for me, like they were loving on me more than my family ever did. And that's
Mhm.
what this grace and love enabled me to stay clean, stay on course, and actually persevere, because I've been drug addict, alcoholic for 20 years. And now I have these blessings of family and love and peace. And that's the same as you. I just cannot control myself. I have to do this for others, because there's so many people still in prison of the addiction. And you know what? I
Yeah.
don't want to say, in my mind, I say especially men. No, not especially men. Men and women.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. I really like to broadly, like you, talk about mental health and the awareness and how women actually can support men going through this difficult journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I did not mention earlier is that I have been married. We were together about 15 years, married, I think 9 out of those 15, divorced for quite some time now, and have a healthy relationship with my ex, which was important to me. I wanted to, again, be an example for my sons, and luckily so did she. And so it wasn't a bad breakup from that perspective. It's always sad and all those things, and it hurts, yes. Um, but that, number one, has been wonderful because we have children together and us being mature enough to put them first, set our own differences aside, and be adults, so to speak. What, you know, so many, let me take a step back. Relationships are so important, and humans desire relationship. We need community. And if you're single, if you're dating, if you're married, whatever the situation is, as a man, when you have a support system and you have someone in your life, a woman in this case would be for me, as I did, it's really important for men and powerful for men because we we tend to live a simple life and we think we don't need much. But when we find someone who we connect with in a romantic partnership, it unlocks so much potential for us. And I do believe that we need companionship, we need each other. And the challenge is finding someone that you align with that will support you, and that relationships are difficult, right? And for you to not understand who you are and enter into a relationship and project that outward onto your partner is going to make it very difficult. And to understand who you are is a challenge, but you can build a life together, in partnership. And so I think about, I've dated a number of different women since I was divorced, and they've been very supportive at certain levels, but I think my alcoholism made it difficult for them to fully connect with me because I wasn't all fully emotionally there. And I'm thinking about a few things that I talk to men about now, and most of them are in relationships. And what I see is consistently the woman in their life in these situations have left them, or they're considering leaving them, and they don't understand. Like, I've poured my heart, my soul into this. I don't understand why this is happening, and I'm lost. And now they're saying that they're suicidal and all these things because they don't know how they're going to live without her and all these things. And I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, because men, we don't really know how to connect with our emotions, and we don't know what to do in these situations, and we think it's the end of the world. And meanwhile, the woman is, a lot of cases, moving on because she has already checked out, so to speak, in the relationship, and it confuses the man. And I think the key is for a man in these situations is to understand that they've got to be vulnerable. They need to show emotion. They need to talk to their partner. They can't be afraid to do those things. And what I'm seeing a lot also is that there's a lot of chatter on social media about men believing that the women are going to just leave them either way. And if they don't provide enough or they don't do XYZ, the woman is just going to leave. And so they put up that wall. And when you put up that wall, what happens to her? She no longer feels safe. She can't let her feminine flow release and be her true, authentic self. And then your polarities into start to butt up against each other, and they basically, boom, they're going backwards and creating some kind of an issue. And then everything goes south, and then the arguments start, and then all those things happen. And so the key thing is for the men, they need to understand what women are like in their emotional selves and their femininity. And that's the thing that men don't understand. So those are some of the things that I will dive deep into to help men understand is, number one, who am I as a man? What are my core values? What do I desire out of life? Create some disciplined habits and be strong and be a leader. So then that woman in your life can then be safe, be feminine, and fully support you, fully open to be able to do that. It's very complicated, as you understand, being married and in a relationship and with three children. But that's the thing. And how do you get men to understand that if they're not willing to be open and vulnerable, right? And so women, they can't give up on their man. They need to encourage their man to take risks, therapy, right? Life coaching, as basically is what I offer. I call it men's empowerment, men's mastermind coaching. and help them understand that it's okay to be emotional and allow themselves to show that vulnerability. And it's okay to even shed a tear if you need to, especially in front of your significant other. If you can't do that, you gotta figure out how to do that, because that's where the true bond and connection comes together.
Absolutely. Wow. That's a really great point. Another thing that I like to add to it, if we would see a mental health and addiction as pain and have grace, it's not like I'm talking as a woman point of view. Like what I need as a wife, it's just grace. I know this is happening not to me, it's just happening. And what I have to be to support my husband and step back and take my own feelings and emotions out of it and accepts on being offended and angry and upset from his behavior, try to understand why this is happening to him and how can I support. And I actually have few situations in my marriage because it's been 16 years, definitely.
Oh wow,
Somebody
congratulations.
thinks if somebody say to me, I have a perfect marriage with no problems, when I just got married, maybe you could tell me that. But now I'm like, I don't think so. You tell me you have a perfect children, the same thing. So I already have this experience and it's tough. Sometimes by the grace of God, it's holding on just because we committed. That's about
Hmm.
it, not because of him or me, but just committed to persevere. But I realize two people who has trauma cannot create perfect marriage. You have to work on yourself first of all and be aware.
Yes.
And that's why I'm thinking, man, that app that you have and what you teaching men to understand, was a huge process for me and my husband, but that would help them speed up that process to understand who I am, how I can treat others, what to do, like with my traumas too. You cannot ignore that you have a trauma, and doesn't matter if you have really something bad and traumatic happen. Neglect is a trauma too.
Yeah.
Like whatever happened to you in childhood and coming out as the negative emotions or behavior, you have a trauma. So you have to look into it, into yourself first. And
Yeah.
that's what's really beautiful. You said women gonna leave you. No, we are here to stay. And I love that you point that out because I do believe in relationship when the woman enter a relationship, she want that security, she want a love, she
Mhm.
want the stability. We don't come into relationship just to like fool around and leave. I don't know, like anyway, so that's cool that you point that out. It is difficult to go through this, but to support other party, you look, what can I do to help instead of I'm offended. When you're talking about smile, I use so much drugs to pursue happiness. I never been as like happy as when I'm clean. When I'm
And because I've been there, I understand where they're coming from, and I know how difficult it is. It is so difficult. need to replace that old mindset. You need to replace those old activities with something better. And that's what I committed to do. YouTube videos, podcasts, self-help books, Celebrate Recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous, therapy, you name it. Do whatever it takes to get you to where you want to be. Do not quit. Do not give up on yourself, and have a support system. If you don't think you have one, I can probably lead you in the right direction to find one in your area, whatever that may be and whatever is the best fit for you. So
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That is fantastic advice. And yes, if we start with the small steps and create the momentum, that's where it all begins. But I want to say another thing just to add to that. If it's not going to be happening right away, have grace. Have grace for yourself. Maybe 1 week it's going to be 2 times you're going to walk. Yay,
yeah.
it's so much, like it's still 2 times more than last week. You did something good for yourself. Maybe you skip 1 day coffee. And it's still gonna be like, I want you to celebrate yourself, except then like thinking
Yes.
negatively, like, oh, you know what? It's not happening fast enough and all this stuff. 90 days. But it doesn't need to be so perfect for all these 90 days. As long as after 90 days, your mind gonna say, oh, look, I like walking. Oh, look, I feel better without coffee. Oh, that's awesome. I'm doing something great. So it's going to create this positive feedback in your mind. And yeah, that's what it is. Just keep doing it. 1 week it's going to be
Yeah.
like 5, another